Vietnam is making a really serious play in the global semiconductor race. In this briefing, we're going to cut right through the noise to look at the strategy, the key players, and, the critical questions that are really going to define its success. So let's dive right in. Okay, let's start with the big number, the one you need to remember. $31.39 billion. That's the projected value of Vietnam's semiconductor market by 2029. And look, this figure isn't just about growth. It's a huge statement of intent on the world stage. So to really understand the story behind that number, we're going to break it down into 5 key areas. We'll look at the market opportunity, the drivers behind the growth, who's competing, what the future looks like with AI, and then the big strategic takeaway. So, what does this market actually look like on the ground? Well, the data paints a picture of absolutely explosive growth. But it also shines a light on a kind of strategic imbalance that Vietnam really has to tackle to reach its full potential. The trajectory here is it's steep and it's clear. We're looking at a climb from about $21.5 billion in 2025 to over $31 billion by 2029. That's a compound annual growth rate of nearly 10%. That is a very powerful signal of some serious sustained momentum. Now this is where it gets really interesting. This slide shows the core challenge. See, high-value design makes up over half of the entire semiconductor value chain, but Vietnam's current strength, it's in assembly, testing, and packaging, or ATP, which is only about 6% of that value. So the mission is crystal clear. They have to move up that value chain. So you might be asking, what is fueling this incredible surge? Well, it's a powerful mix of factors that are really laying the groundwork for Vietnam's big ambitions. You can really boil it down to 4 key things creating this powerful tailwind. First, you've got supportive government incentives and a very clear national strategy. Second, its location is perfect, right at the heart of Southeast Asia, next door to huge markets like China. Third, they have an abundance of raw materials, including the world's second-largest reserves of rare earth elements, which is huge. And finally, a large and growing pool of engineering talent. With that kind of supportive environment, you can bet it's getting a lot of attention. It's pulling in the global semiconductor giants, and at the same time, it's helping these ambitious local champions start to rise up. And let's be clear, right now, foreign direct investment is the engine driving all of this. I mean, the world's biggest names are placing multi-billion-dollar bets on Vietnam's future. They're drawn in by its stability, its growth potential, and its strategic position in the world. And the scale of these investments is just staggering. You've got Amkor Technology putting $1.6 billion into a new factory. Samsung, the biggest foreign investor by far, has poured over $23 billion into the country. Intel has a massive $1.5 billion assembly and testing facility. And Hana Micron is committing nearly $1 billion for its packaging operations. This table gives you a fantastic snapshot of how these global players fit into the puzzle. You can see a heavy concentration of world-class companies like NVIDIA and Synopsys in the design phase. And then you have the giants, Intel, Samsung, absolutely dominating that assembly, testing, and packaging, or ATP segment. But, and this is a really important but, this isn't just a story about foreign money. A really vibrant domestic ecosystem is starting to take shape, and that signals a crucial shift from just being a production base to becoming a genuine industry player. Vietnamese companies are making some seriously bold moves. You've got FPT designing its own chips, and they've already secured orders for 67 million units. That's incredible. The state-owned Viettel designed a super complex 5G chip and wants to build the nation's very first fabrication plant. And then we have conglomerates like Sovico investing in critical infrastructure like data centers. Okay, so what's next? Where is all of this heading? Well, the national focus is shifting to the next great frontier in tech, which, as we all know, is the single biggest driver for the future of semiconductors: artificial intelligence. This quote from FPT's chairman, Trung Ya Bin, it just captures the scale of this new national ambition perfectly. The goal isn't just to play along, it's to actually lead the region in both AI and semiconductors. And this isn't just talk. This dream is already becoming a reality. There's a landmark $200 million collaboration between FPT and NVIDIA to build a sovereign AI cloud. This AI factory is going to be powered by NVIDIA's world-class tech, giving Vietnam the infrastructure to develop its own AI models and applications. Of course, ambition have to be met with execution.
And to get there, Vietnam has to overcome 3 critical, interconnected hurdles that could definitely slow down its climb. And these hurdles are pretty significant. First, there's a serious shortage of highly skilled engineers. Second, they need major upgrades to their core infrastructure, especially a stable energy supply for these incredibly power-hungry facilities. And third, they need to modernize their logistics and management to keep up with a high-tech global supply chain.
And to put just one of those challenges into perspective, the skilled labor one, look at this number, 50,000. That is how many semiconductor engineers Vietnam wants to train by 2030. It's a massive undertaking, but it's what's needed to meet the demand from this booming industry. So let's bring it all together. After looking at the market, the players, and the outlook, it is just so clear that Vietnam is standing at a critical inflection point. It's a real crossroads of immense opportunity and pretty significant challenges. Look, their success in attracting billions in FDI for assembly and testing is undeniable. They've nailed that part. That foundation is solid. But the path to becoming a true semiconductor powerhouse, well, that requires a much, much harder strategic leap. It means climbing that value chain into the high-end, high-margin world of design and fabrication. And that leaves us with the single most important strategic question for any leader or investor watching this space. With the foundation in place and the ambition so clearly stated, can Vietnam execute this difficult next phase? Can it transform itself from a critical assembly hub into a global semiconductor powerhouse? The answer to that question is going to define the next decade of its entire economic future.